Hello, my name is David Penny, and I'm going to talk to you in this session about advertising on Facebook and Amazon and why you might want to consider it. But first, a little bit about my background and why you should take any notice of what I'm going to say. I am the author of the Thomas Berrington Historical Mystery Series, set in Moorish Spain during the 1480s. There are currently 4 books in the series, with another 6 planned. 2 years ago, before I started using advertising, I languished in the position many indie authors do. I made a few sales, earned a very little, money, and ran around trying to find some way to reach all those readers out there I was convinced would love my books if only they knew about them. Little of that effort worked. Then I discovered Facebook and, later, Amazon advertising. Since that time, I've increased my book sales from around 20 a month to over 1,500 a month. I've hit both the UK and US #1 slots 2 days running for free downloads. My author rank has risen from around the 250,000 rank to around 5,000. More importantly, as you can see on this graph, my ranking used to fluctuate wildly. I would sell a single book and jump up to above 100,000, but I couldn't sustain that. And after a few days, I was back below 200,000. I didn't know how to break out of that cycle until I started advertising. If you look at the image there, you can see my author rank over 2 years. You can see this fluctuation and, more importantly, how it smooths out as I get to grips with the advertising and as I get more books in my series. So, why Facebook and Amazon advertising? There are a range of other methods to get your book in front of readers, from blog tours, giveaways, Goodreads, other book platforms, appearances, book readings, and so on. For a long time, these appeared to be the only methods an author had to gain readers for their books, and I've tried the majority of these at one time or another. Unfortunately, apart from Goodreads, I discovered that many of these platforms are broadcasting primarily to other writers. Now, although other writers are also readers, of course, they are a small pool in the ocean that is all the readers. So I wanted to connect directly to those readers. Also, I'm lazy, and appearing on blogs, writing posts, etc. took up a great deal of time, as did posting to Facebook and Twitter. Facebook is said to have almost 2 billion active users, and according to the Pew Research Center, 73% of Americans have read at least one book in the last year, and 28% have read an ebook. Assuming the figure may be either higher or lower worldwide, and taking the median, this means that on Facebook there may be as many as 1 billion readers. Now, that's a big pond, and one that I want to swim in. Amazon is the biggest source of book sales in the world, and therefore that's where people go in order to find their books. Advertising on these platforms appeals greatly to my lazy nature. I'd rather be writing my next book than spending hours a week on marketing. I'm going to tell you how I started, the mistakes I made, the things I did right, and then I'm going to give a brief class in how to create both a Facebook advert and an Amazon advert. Using Facebook ads has a learning curve, but once learned, an advert can continue to serve content for months, sometimes even years. Facebook ads also allow you to fine-tune who you can deliver your advert to. Amazon deliver your advert directly to the people you choose who are likely to want to read something similar to what you have written. Therefore, what you're aiming at now are people who read books and read books similar to the ones that you write. Before we start, I want to get you to answer a few questions first. Are you really serious about improving your sales? Do you want to get more readers? Do you have a budget you can afford to lose if it doesn't work out? This is a big question for many people, but the thing to bear in mind here is if you can get an advert that works, the money will follow. Do you have a plan of where you want to reach, where you want to be? Not just a vague, I want to be number one, but a realistic vision which encompasses where you currently are and where you want to be. And I'm going to be a little brutal here. I've seen authors throw money away on advertising, particularly on Facebook, when they don't have what might be termed a minimal viable product. What do I mean by that? Well, you have a book that is as good as you can make it, and it's been validated by a third party. For me, that third party is a professional editor who I pay. She tells me what doesn't work and what does. There is no point spending money on advertising if you haven't yet spent money on your product, the book. Does your book have a great cover? And is it genre specific? That means if someone browses Amazon's sales pages, does your cover shout out, "This is what you're going to get if you buy this book"? And finally, and possibly the cruelest of all, if your current sales rank is below 1 million and you only have one book, don't even think about spending money on advertising. First, write another book, preferably another 2 books minimum. I didn't start advertising until I had 3 books in a series. And yes, writing a series helps. If you write standalone books, that doesn't mean you can't advertise. But bear in mind, it does mean it's going to be harder to make those sales. Okay, so what exactly is the difference between advertising on Facebook and Amazon? Facebook ads have been around for a long time. But it's only over the past few years that indie authors have started to make effective use of them. One of the best-known practitioners is Mark Dawson, but I've spoken to others as well who have significantly increased their sales using Facebook ads. Amazon ads are much newer and, until recently, were restricted to those who are exclusive to KDP. This has now opened up, but in general, Amazon ads still work best for those who are exclusive because the platform is geared towards the Amazon space. You cannot direct a reader to a book on Apple or Kobo or any other platform from an Amazon ad. Facebook ads, on the other hand, are worldwide and can target all reader platforms. Facebook has a higher cost of entry. Minimum spend is £5 or $5 per day. Amazon ads spend starts at $2 per day. The other difference is Facebook will, in general, spend all of your budget, while Amazon often has difficulty spending that $2 a day, let alone $5 a day or above. I'll talk about some of the things you can do to help to improve this on Amazon, and also the dangers to watch out for in spending more than you want to on Facebook. On both platforms, you need to run your ads for a reasonable period of time. Some of mine have been running continuously for almost a year and are still working. At the same time, you must monitor your ads, particularly in the early days and particularly on Facebook. Set yourself a budget which you are willing to risk losing all of. This probably needs to be at least $70 or pounds, or if you are in the UK or whatever your own currency is. Why? Because it's going to take 2 weeks before you can decide if your ad is going to work. I've posted elsewhere on Ally about what works and what doesn't work on Facebook. But to summarize in a couple of bullet points, these are: keep your image simple and make it yellow or orange. Keep the image strong. Keep the words to a minimum. Run your ads long enough to judge the results. As I said, at least 2 weeks. Monitor your spending. Facebook is very good at spending all of the budget you allocate to it. Make sure you're comfortable with what it is taking and stop your ad as soon as you feel you're out of your depth. Experiment with different things, different words. You can set up multiple adverts and switch between them and see which gives you the best return. Learn how to use the information Facebook provides, and there is a lot of it. We'll see a little bit of this later on. My own learning took me 3 months. Over that time period, I lost around $150, but I also increased my sales, just not enough to quite cover the costs. At the end of those 3 months, I turned off all my ads and sat back to work out what I needed to do to improve. When I started again, and whether by luck or judgment, I don't know, I started to earn significantly more than I spent. And as I said at the beginning, over a period of 14 months, I went from selling between 20 to 80 books a month to over 1,500. Okay, in a second I'm going to show you how to create a Facebook advert. But first I'm going to quickly take you through the steps that I would recommend as a first attempt. Don't worry too much about what is not covered, as it probably won't be required. The most important things in the whole of this process are your image, keep it simple. The words, keep them few. Your audience, be selective. And what you're going to need before you can start is a Facebook author page, not a normal Facebook page, but a specific author page, and a budget, some money. Okay, here we go. This is a video I've created of my own Facebook ads campaign. You can see the ads that are marked as blue, and those are currently running. All the ones that are grayed out are disabled. You can see over the top that there are tabs for campaigns, advertising sets, adverts, and on the far left-hand side, an account overview. In here, you can see a number of different pieces of information. The reach of your campaign, how many people it's been delivered to, the impressions you've made, and the amount spent. All of this is useful information, and you get a little graph or a bar chart against each one if you click through onto them. What I'm going to do now, though, is show you how to set up a campaign from scratch. To do this, you click on Create Campaign. Facebook will prompt you and ask you a number of questions. Do you want to raise awareness of your brand? Do you want to get traffic, engagement, or conversions? In this case, we want to have traffic because we want the people to click on our link and go to our sales page. So at this point as well, you can change the campaign name. Personally, I like to put in a header that says when I set this campaign up and which book I've set it up for. Next series of questions says, where do you want to drive your traffic to? Is it a website? Now in this case it's going to be to my Amazon sale page. Is it an app or is it somewhere else? So I've left it, which is the default, to send it to website or Messenger. We'll turn off Messenger later on. On the right hand side, Facebook is showing us the possible number of people we can reach. At the moment, our audience is set to be United Kingdom, and I'm going to set this up to be United States, so I'll delete that. And all I have to do is to type in a country, or I can click on the little world map. As soon as I do that, you will see the audience size updated on the right hand side, and it now reads 223 million people. Those are the number of Facebook users in the United States. At the moment, I've got a default spend amount in, which is too high, but we'll come on to that in a second and see what else we can change on it. You could set up your ad to run worldwide, but I would not recommend it. You could also set it up to run UK, Canada, and United States, but again, I would not recommend it. For some reason, Facebook prefers to have a single country location, and it tends to serve those adverts more efficiently than if you try to include too many different places within your criteria. The next section you need to look at is, are there age ranges you want to deliver your adverts to? I know through running ads for a while that my best age ranges are 40 to 45 plus, up to 65 plus. So I will select those. Very few people buy my books who are under 40, and therefore there's no point targeting that demographic. Similarly, about 80% of the people that buy my book are female. So I could select just females, but in this case, I'm going to leave it set to both men and women. I could enter into the language English because obviously I'm targeting the United States, which has a significant non-English language population. Large number of people over there that Spanish is their first language. However, Facebook sometimes gets that wrong. So you can see as soon as I put English in, it drops from down to 91 million people. And so generally I don't fill English in. But if you had something that was targeting a specific language, then obviously you would want to set that. The next section on detailed targeting is probably one of the most critical you will need to deal with. Here you can select people's interests, and as you do so, Facebook will not only tell you what the numbers are for each of these, so here for historical mystery, 78,460 people have expressed an interest, but it will also use that to reduce your audience down to people who are more likely to read your books. So I've selected historical mystery, and immediately my audience comes down to a much lower level. You can see here Ken Follett has 346,000 followers, whereas other people will have a lot less. As I said, this is one of the most important elements to get right. You need to define your exact audience that you are going to target, and you do that through this detailed targeting area. A little lower down, we have a section on budgeting and schedule, and here you define how much you want to spend per day. The default is £20, so be careful of that. Don't leave that at the default. I'm going to put in £5 per day. Even if I'm targeting a US market, this is in pounds. You can see if I put £2 in or even $4.99, Facebook won't accept it. It has to be a minimum of £5 per day. That can mount up, so you need to be careful of that. Also in this section, there are a couple of settings that says you can run your advert continuously, starting today, or you can set a start and end time. This latter one might be useful if you want to run an advert over a set number of days. My Facebook setup is showing the spend in pounds. If you are registered in the US, then obviously it will be shown in dollars or whatever your local currency is. Above the budget and schedule, there is a section that says placements. Facebook will default this to automatic placements, and it says recommended. Whatever you do, do not allow it to do that. Always click on edit placements. When you do, you will see it's going to deliver that to Facebook, Instagram, and Audience Network. Generally, for selling books, Audience Network and Instagram simply don't work. So I would recommend you untick those. And then once you've done that, you open up the Facebook section, and it will show you where it's going to deliver it to on Facebook, into your newsfeed area, instant articles, and into the right-hand column. As you hover over these, it shows you the locations that they will appear on the Facebook page. I would recommend you untick instant articles and right column and just leave feeds on. That's all you need, and that will work in most cases for selling your books. It's where people expect to see the ads, and it's where they most regularly will interact with them as well. Before I move on, there is another drop down you can use, which is what device type do you want to deliver your adverts on. I leave this just set to all devices, but if you really wanted to, you could target mobile devices such as phones and tablets or desktops only. There is some evidence that some work better than others, but generally you're going to leave those exactly as they are. The last section under budget and schedule is whether you want to manually change your bid amount. Leave all of this set to the default and click on continue, which takes you to the advert itself, and you can select whether you want to put it to a particular Facebook page if you have more than one. The default page here is perfectly fine for me. You can also select whether you want to do a single image, which is the default, a carousel, a single video. I've experimented with those and failed dismally, but some people have great success with them. And another area that people can have success with is slideshows, which is a series of up to 10 images that scroll through. But I always use a single image. I have a number of images available that I've already uploaded to Facebook, so I can just browse my library. But if you wish to, you could try looking at free stock images, or you can upload an image you've previously created. The size that you need is 1200 by 628 pixels, and if you go to a service such as Canva, they will have that already predefined in one of their templates. And again, they will allow you access to both free images and fairly reasonably priced stock images. As I said, I'm going to simply click on Browse Images, and it will show you the images I've already got. And I can select one of these. Some of these images have worked well for me in the past, and others have failed abysmally, even though I thought they would work very well. So be careful about, I've already mentioned, be careful about the image you create and the image you associate with your advert. You'll notice that on most of these there are very, very few words. I'm not trying to tell a story here. I'm just trying to give an impression of a feeling of what the book is like. So select your image and it will place it into your library here, and it will start to display what your advert will look like on the right hand side. You need to say when somebody clicks on this advert or clicks on the button for the advert, where is it going to take them to? And so in here, it's remembered some of the settings from before, and so I'm going to go simply to Amazon.com and the ASIN of my book. And it will put Amazon.com in. Some of this information is a bit strange because it's pulled it out from a previous advert and it's trying to do something with it. So there's a number of things you can change. The first one is the headline that is shown underneath the image, so you can highlight that and type in something that you want in there. This is the main thing that people are going to see, so if you can make it memorable, it will help, and if you can spell it properly, it will help even more than that. As you type in information and tab off it, it will update the advertising image on the right hand side. You can also enter text that will appear above the fold, so underneath your name and where it says sponsored, you can type some text that will appear there. I've already mentioned, keep that very simple. 3 lines maximum. Do not try to tell the story of your book in here, because this is an advert. It is intended to entice people to click on the Learn More button. You can also type into the newsfeed link description, which is shown underneath the headline, and you can simply type in whatever you want to do in there. Generally, I will use maybe slightly more words here than I have above the fold, because probably people have already made their mind up whether they are going to click on your link or not at this point. Quite often at this point it's nice to put some social proof in, so you could put the text of a review you've obtained on Amazon. If you do, I quite like to put quotes around it to make it obvious that it is a quote from a review. Again, if you've got a review that runs to 4 pages, don't try putting that into here. So at this point, what we have on the right-hand side displayed is what your advert is going to look like when it's delivered to somebody who's simply scrolling through Facebook. And the people it will be delivered to will be those that you defined in the previous section by their demographics. The button you can see there says Learn More. You can have other buttons, but that's a good one. And when you're finished, what you do is you click on Place Order. That will submit this to Amazon. They say it could take several hours to get approval, but I've noticed recently it's being approved almost immediately. Your advert will then appear in the Adverts Manager area. And from this point, you can drill down and look at various reports and feedback on how that is performing. It's a little View Charts area underneath each one. So you can just go to the View Charts area, or you can drill down to the next level down and select whatever level you want to look at. If you do that, a little window opens up and you can see how that ad is performing. You can see here that how many results as you move through for the week, how many results you have had your advert delivered to. And the green line below, which updates on the top as well, tells you how much each of those clicks on your advert has cost you. You can see in there it's 47 pence a click, 39 pence a click. There are a number of people I know and I've read about who are obtaining hugely small values in there, like 3p. And even their main ads are coming in at 12p and 18 pence. Mine are a lot higher than that, partly because it's a smaller demographic I'm dealing with, and there is some more competition for the clicks. I'm perfectly happy with up to 50 pence a click, because on these ads I'm earning roughly 5 times the amount I spend. And so I'm not too worried about trying to get the cost per click down, although obviously it would benefit me if I did. You can also click on the demographics tab, and this is where I said earlier the majority of my readers, and now it's currently 88% of the people who've reacted to that particular advert are female as opposed to male. And if you hover over any particular age range, it will give you some more statistics and tell you some quite interesting details. I've selected more than one delivery platform. If you clicked on placement, then it would show you what proportion of your adverts had been delivered to Facebook, to Messenger, to Instagram, to Audience Network, etc. And so if you're interested, you could take a look at that and see how that goes. However, there are, as you drill down through all of these charts and information, there's lots of different things that you can find. And if you are really interested and use the Power Editor as opposed to the Advert Editor, then you will get even more information. However, for now, that's the end of this mini session on how to create a Facebook advert. In a second, I'm going to go through and show you how to do an Amazon ad, which is much simpler and will take far less time, you'll be glad to hear. So let's just summarize the elements of a Facebook advert. At the top level is a campaign. Treat this as a header. Give it a name that is meaningful and useful, but also not too long. For instance, as you saw on mine, it might have a 2017 0601 Red Hill, which tells me when it started and the book I'm selling. You'll be grateful that you did this later on. The next level down, and arguably the most important of these, is the advert set. Maybe more important than the advert itself, but the advert still has to be right. It is at this level that you define who your audience with and to fine-tune it, and how much you want to spend. The lowest level in all this hierarchy is the advert itself. This is what appears in people's Facebook feeds, hopefully. And I recommend in the newsfeed area and only on Facebook. Now we're going to define an Amazon advert. And you'll be glad to hear this is significantly simpler than creating a Facebook ad. To create your first Amazon ad, go to your sales dashboard in KDP, and on the top area, bottom left, you will see a link that says Add Campaigns. Click onto this. Your campaign dashboard will be displayed. This one's mine, and you can see I've got at the top 3 ads that are running, one that's paused, another one that's running, one that's terminated, one that was rejected, and so on and so on. And across the columns you can see the name of them, what type it is, and you'll notice most of them are sponsored products, when they started, what my daily budget is, how many impressions each has received, how many clicks I've had on the ad for those impressions, and the average cost per click. All of this information we will talk about as we go through setting up the ad itself. To do this, click on the New Campaign button shown top left. First page you see is asking you what type of campaign you want to use. You've given the option of a sponsored product or a product display ad. And on the images that are displayed, it shows where each of these will appear. I first tried product display ads and they weren't very good for me. You can see that on that one, your ad appears on the right hand side opposite a book that you have targeted for it to appear against. And that initially seemed like a great idea, but what I discovered is that by the time somebody gets to this point, they're already focused on buying that particular book, and they're not going to move away from that to look at a second one. And so it didn't work as well as I expected. Sponsored products, however, work far better, and you will see that when we get to the next stage in the process, where we have chosen a campaign and we can decide what we're going to actually do with it. So click on Sponsored Products and the next screen will be shown. The next stage is to select which book you are going to advertise. I've already got adverts running for a number of these, so I'm going to come down and I'm going to select the Sin Eater, no, the Incubus. Select that. Wants a campaign name, which you can leave as is or you can change, and it wants a daily budget amount. Here's where it differs from Facebook. You can put a value as low as $2 per day in here, and this is always in dollars, never in any other currency. You can specify whether to run the campaign continuously starting from now, or you can select a date range. You might want to do a date range, for instance, if you have a book on free offer and you're going to run it on free for 3 or 5 days or something. And then you can create an ad specifically to target that. You then select a targeting type. Automatic targeting, Amazon will choose what keywords it thinks you would like to use and that would be best for your book. My first sponsored ad was automatic and it continues to work to this day, but you can't go in and see what keywords Amazon has chosen and you can't make any changes to those keywords. So what I do now is I always choose manual targeting and you get another series of questions. The first one of these is set a default cost per click bid for suggested keywords. And as you can see, the default is 25 cents. And Amazon has also chosen a number of keywords it thinks that might work for me. I always change it from the default now of 25 cents to more, 40 cents or 50 cents. That doesn't mean you're going to be paying that much, but it means that's what you're willing to bid against other sponsored ads for the same search terms. So some of these search terms may be very popular, like mystery or mystery historical books or detective fiction or detective mysteries. If your bid amount is too low, then your sponsored ad won't get shown and somebody else's will in preference. Therefore, put a value in here and then closely monitor it for a while, but I think you will find it will never ever charge you the maximum that you have in there. The default search terms, some are useful, some are just absolutely useless. I think further down on this list it says something like book 4, which I suppose somebody might look for and yet they might not. 4x4, I don't think I want to sell it to people who are interested in Land Rover Discoveries. You can click add all and it will now add all of those search terms at a 50% bid. And then you can start to customize the ad. You can add your own terms into this. And one of the ones I find useful is make sure you add your own name. One of my best performing and cheapest elements on any advert is me, because people come in and they say, oh, I've heard about a book by David Penny and I'd like to search for it. And so they put my name in and my book then gets delivered in their search displays. So always use your own name and you can add whatever you want in there. Amazon recommend a minimum of 100 search terms. I haven't got that many in here, and a lot of my adverts don't have that many and they still work. Here you can only enter 150 characters. This is the only bit of the displayed advert that you have any control over. And so I would suggest that really you should go offline and think about what you're going to say in here. 150 characters isn't much. And you need to make every single one of those characters count. I'm just going to type in something that is not very good, but that's for the purposes of this demonstration. So, enter something in here that will intrigue a reader and make them want to click on the image and title of your book. As I said, this isn't terribly exciting, but it would probably work. It might not work, but you can come back and you can change this if you want to improve it over time. Like I say, take some time out, sit down, hone that description, because it's the one thing you have control over here. At this point, at the bottom of the screen, you will see what your advert is actually going to be looking like when it's displayed. It says it's sponsored, it's got the title of your book, it's got the book image, which is why much earlier on in this presentation I talked about making sure you have a good cover, because that's what's going to sell your book as well as anything else here. And then you click on Launch Campaign, or you can save it as a draft, but Launching Campaign, Amazon says this can take up to 2 days to approve. They use a manual approval process. I think they've got loads of people who look at the screens and decide whether this is an acceptable ad or not. Unlike Facebook, it's not going to turn around in a matter of minutes. Generally, this takes about 24 hours and sometimes a little bit longer before you get an email back that says your campaign is now live. Once you've clicked on Launch Campaign, you will see it on this advertising campaigns dashboard, and you can get information on each of the values you can see on here. So you've got the budget that you're spending, and you can see some are $3, some are $6 a day, some are $2 a day, and so on. The number of impressions, or the number of times that advert has been displayed. So the second one down has got a high impression count, 456,000 impressions, of which 1,153 people have clicked on it at an average cost per click of 25 cents. I have spent $290.87 and I have earned $436.85, giving me a 55.58% average cost of sale. That's not a bad return when you think that if you knew that you could advertise a book and you were going to earn twice as much as your advertising costs were, you'd be absolutely mad not to spend the money on the advertising, because the more you spend, the more that's going to return. Some of the ads have got a better return on investment than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, it's got a 37% average cost of sale. And so depending upon what you want to do and monitor on this, you can look at various statistics and various pieces of information. And then of course you can click into the advert itself and you will get a lot more information. You can see for each of the search terms that you've defined how many impressions you're getting, how many clicks, what the average cost per click is, how much you've spent on that individual keyword, how much you've earned in terms of a sale, and what the average cost of that sale is. So on that particular one, Anne Swinfen, who writes in a similar genre to me, she is returning 44% average cost of sale. Bernard Cornwell, 36%. Cassandra Clark, who is actually not anybody I know, is 21. And you can see, I said this is why you should enter your own name, because the cost of my name in there is only 11% of the cost of the sale. Some of these terms you see are having very few clicks. Some of them have very low impressions. And so you can pause or turn off various ones. And you can come back here and you can remove terms if you want, and you can always add additional terms as you go along. So if you think about your keywords and what your keywords might be, you can add individual keywords and put individual bid amounts against each of those. To summarize Amazon ads, they are much simpler to set up and to manage than Facebook ads, which is an advantage or a disadvantage depending upon your point of view. They have a lower cost of entry, but for some reason Amazon often seems reluctant to take your money. Facebook will spend your entire budget quite happily. Amazon will frequently never take the daily spend that you have specified. Obviously, they only work if you are selling through Amazon because they will link to your Amazon sales page, and they work best if you are exclusive to Amazon. If you're wide, then this may not be the best platform for your advertising, but if you're selling on Amazon, it might be worth trying. Okay, I've covered quite a lot in this session, so I'll try to summarize some of it. And remember, you can always go back and look at any of the parts of this presentation again online. In my experience, both Facebook ads and Amazon ads work, providing you have a product that is good enough to attract readers. Facebook ads cost more, sometimes significantly more, but offer more features. Amazon ads are cheaper and therefore a good place to start to dip your toe into the world of book advertising. And as always, monitor, and monitor again. It's your money that these people are spending, so take care of it and never spend more than you are comfortable with. Thanks for watching this session for Indie Author Fringe. I'm David Penny. Thank you again. Goodbye.